Hey everyone, I'm Clifden Kennedy from CBSNews.com, and with me today is our friend Ms. Pat Milton from the CBS News Investigative Unit. But we don't care about the investigative stuff today. We want to hear about the passing of our dear friend to all Yankee fans here, Mr. George Steinbrenner, who died at 80 years old today. Pat, you've interviewed Mr. Steinbrenner a couple of times. Can you give me a general impression of him?
Yes, he was a very demanding presence. When you walked into the room, he was very tall and very big, but also very enthusiastic, even for a reporter coming in to have an interview. But you were overwhelmed with his presence and his power. But he immediately was able to put you at ease. He'd show you around his office at different pictures, autographed pictures that he had, or different memorabilia he would show you around. His office was right attached to his box at Yankee Stadium.
So tell me, I hear you may have been one of the last people to interview Mr. Steinbrenner. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I was one of the last people to interview him, Cliff, in September of 2007. I had called him up and left messages, and I think every reporter in town was trying to get a hold of him just because he hadn't given an interview in years, and there had been reports of his failing health. So I wanted to get a hold of him, and hadn't heard from him all day, kind of anxiously waited by the phone, hoping that he would return the call. I had interviewed him in the past, so he had known me, and I was hoping that my reputation as being honest and objective would carry the day and that he would return the call. Later that evening, he called me at home at my apartment, and it's typical way of his getting on the phone, Patty, this is George. And I was kind of stunned. I was grabbing for envelopes or scraps of paper, anything that I could write down some notes with. And I asked him, I said I wanted to do an interview with him, and he kind of balked at first. And then I said, oh, you know, please, I'm sure there's interviews you want to give, get your word out as to how you're doing. And he said, well, I don't want to do an interview, but if it's going to help you with your career, let's do it. And it's pretty typical of the way George Steinbrenner was. If he respected you and he thought you had a good reputation, he'd play ball with you. So I tried to set up a time for the interview, and he says, you know what, let's do the interview right now. Go ahead, fire away. And an hour later, I was still on the phone with him, and he was in ailing health at that point. And it's still, even though he was in ailing health, he was still demanding the win, demanding the championship. He was gigging Joe Torre and saying that he hopes that he'll come out with a winner that season. And he was also saying that he hoped Brian Cashman, who wanted sole authority over the Yankees, he hoped that Brian Cashman would also deliver a championship season for him.
In the times that you interviewed Mr. Steinbrenner, what surprised you about him, or anything that something folks may not know?
I think when I first met him, I was tremendously surprised by his warmth. He's a very engaging person, and you know, you hear all the horror stories about him as being the iron-fisted boss. And I think that I was a bit intimidated before I walked in there to do my first interview with him. But he's very engaging, and he puts you at ease immediately. He's very funny and very much into the conversation that you're having with him. He's not looking over your shoulder. He's looking right at you, and he's purposeful. He has a message that he wants to deliver, and most of the time he wants to deliver the message that he wanted the Yankees to win, and that he loved the Yankee fans, and he wanted the Yankee fans to keep supporting him.
I was at Yankee Stadium about 10 days ago or so, and I noticed Yankee Stadium is still one of the places where they still play God Bless America late in the game. I was wondering, I know that's something that may have come up after 9/11, and there's some other things about Mr. Steinbrenner and New York City in that time. Can you tell me about his patriotism, what he thought about that?
That's a great area of George Steinbrenner. You know, he was born on the 4th of July, and he took that very seriously. He actually felt that, you know, he was born a true American, and he was going to live up to that. He went to Culver Military Academy out in Indiana and insisted that his 4 children also went to the military academy, even his 2 daughters. He loved the military and would often allow them into the stadium with free tickets.
That's something I'd heard, that if you show up, you're active duty military, you show up day of the game, you get in for free. Is that something that's still true, or is that true?
I believe it is still true, Cliff. And I know that Steinbrenner would often pick up a New York tabloid And he would see a story about somebody that, you know, needed a life-saving surgery, or a soldier that wanted to come home and be with an ailing mother. And he'd pick up the phone out of the blue and call a complete stranger and offer to pay the freight or whatever it cost to get the job done. As I say, he was a big boss, and but over the years of covering him, you saw that he had a big heart.
Big boss, big personality.
Big boss, big personality.
Anything else? Well, Pat, I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts and memories with Mr. Steinbrenner today. I'm Clifden Kennedy for CBSNews.com. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you later. Something like